In 1992, former attorney Steve Otto founded a comic book store called Alternate Realities in Scarsdale, New York, along with Kevin Halstead and Gene Doherty. Over the next 23 years, AR would experience numerous permutations in ownership, but Steve, with limited exceptions, remained the store's one constant. I began shopping at Alternate Realities in elementary school, worked there throughout high school and college, made a movie about it during law school, and, when Steve decided to close up shop in 2015, I chronicled the final days on this podcast. Last year, in the Season 5 finale of My Comic Shop History, I declared the Alternate Realities saga concluded. But then, it turned out we had some new comic shop history to make after all, and I was reminded that nothing ever really ends. It's time to return. Cue the music.
Heavy heart, out on the road. Long time since I've been home. Feels like I'm running back to you. Heavy heart, out on the road. Long time since I've been home. Feels like I'm running back to you.
Welcome back to My Comic Shop History. I am your host, once again, Anthony Desiato. This is part 1 of the 8-part miniseries entitled The Homecoming, a surprising new chapter in the saga of alternate realities. I'm joined today by 2 guests. To my left, we have the spirit of friendship and fun personified, the elder statesman of alternate realities, the best man at my wedding, Rich Roney.
Hey, everybody. Thanks for having me.
And across the table, I don't think he even needs any introduction at this point. He's been on the show so many times. We've talked about him so many times. Stephen K. Otto.
Back for more.
I can't believe we're back. This is astounding.
I can't believe it either.
So it was 8 months ago that the 3 of us, along with Bill Mayo, he lives in New Mexico, but he was in town at that time. 8 months ago that the 4 of us sat at this very table. We recorded the Season 5 finale of My Comic Shop History, and in that episode, I declared the alternate reality saga done. I was like, that's it. We've told the story. We're moving on. The show's going to, I don't know what's going to happen to the podcast. We're going to go away for a while. We may come back. We might not. It's going to be completely different. And then Otto made a liar out of me because here we are.
Yeah, it's like comic book superheroes or supervillains. Nobody ever dies.
Nothing ever really ends.
Everybody comes back somewhere along the way.
This is very true.
Yeah.
But, as far as the initial plan, right, I got to the point, and we talked about it in that episode, but I got to the point where, I'm so proud of the first 5 seasons of the show, and I'm proud of the fact that we covered something different each season, and that sort of, alternate realities, was kind of behind it all. But, Rich, you and I have spoken about this many times over the years. We have a shared affinity for Johnny Carson and this whole idea of, like, knowing when to get off the stage, right?
Yes. For certain experiences, there's a time when it's over. And like Carson, you get off the stage at your high point, you close the door, and you move on to something new. So with the tee-up you just gave, I have to say when we had our annual Illuminati brunch or luncheon, Steve surfaced the idea of working at a convention, and I think it's fantastic. I'm very intrigued. And Steve, I do want to ask you, what prompted you to do that?
Well, Rich really jumped the gun here.
I'm sorry. We'll edit that out.
He went right. No, we'll leave it in. It's all right. He went right in. That's okay. So, so I got to the point where, right, I felt that, we had told a story, and I didn't want to continue the show if it was just going to be, us reminiscing about the same stories that we've told before, or even visiting new comic shops. I've done that a lot, and I felt like whatever I did next had to be something different. But this is something different because it is actually an opportunity to make new comic shop history. So, as Rich was getting at, and, people, if they've been following me and the podcast on social media, they already know this, but officially here on the show, can we confirm, Steve, that Alternate Realities will be back in action for 1 weekend only as a vendor at Undiscovered Realm Comic-Con?
Yes, you can confirm that.
That is confirmed.
Yeah, well, I sent him my check, so I guess I'm in.
I'm going to talk all about that and about your whole "don't be a flat squirrel, hesitation kills" thing. How I felt like there was a little hesitation on your part throughout this process. I didn't feel you lived the Odoisms as fully as you claim.
Well, it wasn't hesitation kills you. I mean, the deal had been made for the space.
But even that, all right, we'll get to all of that. But
I-
yeah.
If I may, and I know I jumped in. It's
quite all right.
But, and how many years have we been having? Is this 4 years we've had that luncheon? So, Steve, when you brought it up at breakfast, when the six of us were together, I was very surprised. So I'm just, from my own standpoint, what prompted you to, hey, why don't we work a show? I remember you turning to Bill going, maybe we could work this show. If I may, where did that originate from?
Well, this is what the January 1, 2020 lunch.
Yes.
The January 1, 2019 lunch, I think we had talked about it. It had been brought up in conversation about possibly doing the Undiscovered Realm show in that summer. And I guess it was sort of the idea was planted in my mind that we should do a show, but at the same time, I still recall the experiences of having done shows previously when the store existed, and really not enjoying doing them. So I thought to myself, well, I never want to do a show again. But I guess this year I started thinking, because of the whole situation with the warehouse, the raise in rent, the speed at which I'm getting rid of stuff from inventory on eBay is rather slow. Even though it's profitable, it's still slow. I thought, well, maybe I should do something to try to push it along a little faster and maybe get rid of some portion of it without having to go to other stores or dealers and wholesaling it out and taking I won't say a loss, but selling it at such a deep discount that it would leave a bad taste in my mouth.
All right.
So we sat down and I thought, okay, since we talked about it last year, I didn't even know when the Undiscovered Realm show was going to be. I knew it was months away.
In fact, even recently, you still didn't know when it was going to be. You
Yeah.
thought that it was in May, and you thought you only had a couple of months to prepare.
Yes. So it was nice to find out when you announced to everybody that we're doing it that I said, oh, I have another month. So I don't have to think about it till then.
So, there are a lot of pieces of this to unpack, and this is really what I want to explore over the course of this episode, is really the decision to do it, because it was big. I think it took us all by surprise. So we've been referencing this Illuminati brunch. So we've mentioned this on the show before, but as you said, Rich, I think for the past 4 years now, a small group of us from AR have been getting together for brunch on New Year's Day, and it's evolved into a very nice tradition. It's a very small, intimate gathering. It's where we plot the future, right? The future of the world.
The world, yes.
Like the Illuminati. We're
Yes.
the AR Illuminati, or the Illuminati.
Right.
We're gonna drill this into the ground. This play on AR inserted into words. But so we've been doing this brunch. Very nice, right? Always a good time.
Absolutely.
And we actually had the full gathering this year for the first time ever, or not the first time in a couple of years.
No, I think it's the first time ever.
Well, so we've switched off over a couple of years, where some years we have Rich, some years we have Bill. This
Right.
year we had both Rich and Bill.
Right.
Correct. Yeah, I was sick 2 years ago. I had the flu, so I missed it. And then for the first 3 years, there was always 6 people. And I think this was the first time Bill and I were there at the same time. I find it thrilling because it's the first day of the new year. And as you said, we're just getting together and we're kind of like, hey, let's start off the year good. And we go to the same place, and it's just been a beautiful tradition. But in the same breath, Steve, when you surfaced this idea, and I remember you chatting with Bill, and Bill goes, should I fly in? I was just very excited to buy that, and that's why I was kind of trying to get perspective on what prompted you to do it.
I almost feel like saying the second I said it, I regretted it.
I think he does. I'll be honest. I think he does.
I think the whole group is going that way.
Yeah, I think when I sent him, people hopefully have seen the artwork for this season of the podcast by now. It's by Chris Giarusso, and I love it. I love it so much. It's a scene, Steve, of you and me. Obviously, you know it. You've seen it. A scene of you and me at Undiscovered Con, holding up the alternate reality sign at the alternate realities booth. It came out great. He knocked it out of the park. But I think when I sent it to Steve, and Steve was very complimentary of the art, but I think he was like, I feel like, I feel like there might be, not regret, but I feel like out of all of us, I think you're the least excited about it.
I think when I sent the check to Chris, I think I sent a note that said, I think Anthony's more excited about this than I am.
That's true. I don't dispute that.
Yeah.
I don't dispute that.
I mean, I guess, after you put the idea out on the table, you start thinking about the details. And it's like, wow, this is going to be a lot of work.
Well, so as far as we got to this poor. And I want to go back and talk about the warehouse because the title of this episode is going to be Westy's Best Customer. So I want to spend some good time talking about the warehouse. But I know Rich really is very interested in your decision making process, as am I, as probably the listeners are as well. Now, when you say the idea had been planted, do you recall that we had like an extensive discussion about this in the last podcast episode that we did? Because you brought it up at brunch as if
it was my idea.
It came to you out of nowhere.
I to be honest, I do not remember the podcast discussion.
Do you think it's possible that we incepted you? That we planted this idea, you forgot about it, but it was in the back of your mind, it grew, and then such that you think it's your own?
I'll say sure, just to make you guys happy.
Well, it makes me wonder what else we can incept him into doing. And now a word from our comic shop sponsor. The Hive Comics and Games is an oasis of nerd fun and events in the heart of Odessa, Texas. Whether it's comic book superhero stories or role-playing into a dungeon, the Hive is where to be. Come face off against the top Magic the Gathering players in West Texas. The Hive carries a majority of new comic titles each Wednesday and has all of your favorite titles in their back issue section. Follow them on Facebook at The Hive Comics and on Instagram at The Hive Comic Shop. My Comic Shop history is also brought to you in part by a family of film festivals. The Point Lookout Film Festival is happening Wednesday, April 8th on Long Island, followed by the Hang On to Your Shorts Film Festival on Saturday, April 18th and Sunday, April 19th in Asbury Park, New Jersey. You can get tickets for both festivals at brownpapertickets.com. Be sure to also listen to the official Hang On to Your Shorts podcast via a shared universe podcast network. And, if you're a filmmaker, like me, submit your work to the August edition of the Brightside Tavern Film Festival via Film Freeway. If you're looking for more Flat Squirrel Productions content, please check out the My Comic Shop History Patreon page. It has been completely revamped. I've added 2 video packages to the reward tiers. These feature exclusive, unused interview footage from My Comic Shop Country. Your Patreon support helps me produce this show. Thank you to all of our current patrons. Lastly, I recently created dedicated social media handles for My Comic Shop Country in advance of the movie's April release. Please follow us on Facebook at My Comic Shop Country, on Instagram at My Comic Shop Country Movie, and on Twitter at My Comic Shop Doc.
So, Steve, if I read it right, there was possibly 3 things influencing your comment at that brunch. I guess it was really your experience in selling stuff so far, the fact that you had to move from one unit to another unit and the logistics of moving in, and then the proximity of the show. Were those the 3 factors that kind of prompted you to agree to do this?
Proximity was a big factor. I don't like doing shows, but realistically, it's like if you're going to do a show, you may as well do the one that's so close that we're closer. Our restocking supply is closer than most everybody else.
And it's an advantage.
Yeah. If it should be the case that we suddenly sell out of everything and after half a day,
You can drive
let's
back
just drive and 10 minutes later, you're fully restocked again.
Yeah.
So you can't get any closer or more convenient. So it's like, well, it's silly not to take advantage of that advantage.
Yeah.
And I already forgot the other 2 points you made.
No, the other,
Well, we're gonna. I want to sort of work our way through all of this stuff. But the last thing I just want to say about that last episode, when Bill and I were talking about AR at a convention, we very specifically weren't. It wasn't something like we were even pushing you to do or encouraging you to do. We were more speculating like amongst ourselves. And I think the reason was, and this is going back to what Rich keeps getting at about how surprised we were. I don't think any of us thought you were going to do any convention because, we're at the point now, we're coming up on 5 years since the store closed. And you've been, very consistent in all that time that you really had no interest in doing any convention. So that's why, even when we were talking about it in that episode, it wasn't even like, hey, Steve, you should do that. We assumed you had no interest. So that's why at the end of that brunch, and it was the end of the brunch. We were there for a while. I shared my news about, and I'll share it now on the podcast as well, that My Comic Shop Country has a distributor. The documentary will be out on Apple TV and Amazon on April 7th. Super excited to get the movie out there. I shared that with the Illuminati at that brunch. And then, you turned to us and floated this idea. And that's why we were all so taken by surprise.
That's that's absolutely my recollection. I was surprised when you turned to Bill and said, "Hey, should we do this show?"
Yeah,
it just stunned me.
I guess for me, it's not such a big surprise announcement. It's just kind of floating the idea out.
Yeah, but it is. But you don't see why we would be surprised.
I actually don't.
You've
you've been so
consistently
consistent
said for years.
For 4.5 years, you've gone, show silent. You've sold through eBay. You've done it piecemeal, individually. You've shouldered it all. And I know that you're not thrilled doing shows. So for you to say this, it surprised me. That's all. And not in a bad way. It just surprised. That's all.
Yeah.
Well, maybe part of it is also because, people don't know that we moved from one warehouse room to a different warehouse room, same building.
I think in the business they call them units.
Units.
Yeah, we're fascinated by the fact that you refer to the units as rooms. I feel like you have if you view it more as a home.
Yeah,
Really?
yeah.
Is the word is the
storage
term?
unit? I mean, technically you're right. I guess they're kind of synonymous, but
Oh, okay. Well,
if I were to talk about
So as listeners may recall, when the store closed in 2015, you moved all of the remaining stock to a Westy's warehouse in White Plains. We don't need to recount I know you had 3 rooms to start. You got rid of 1. You've had 2 units for a significant period of time, basically in all that time.
you did a good job blending both
Yeah, I was
descriptions.
going back and forth there. I caught that too. And but then very recently, you moved the contents of the downstairs room. God damn it! I'm doing it again.
the room is not. It's not an unusual term to use.
Again, I think in the context of warehouse space, I think unit is more common,
It's
more
cold.
appropriate.
It's cold.
Well, but it's a warehouse. It's not your living room.
Well, again, for me, when I set up the comic book room in that warehouse, I mean, there are chairs in there. It's set up in such a way that you can actually sit there and just read comic books all afternoon, which again, Rich, if you ever decide to retire and come back to White Plains, you're welcome to spend every day there just reading comic books very comfortably.
Well, so I think we can reconcile this because I think the way Steve uses them, he uses them like a room. I think where the disconnect is for us is that most people wouldn't use a warehouse in that way. Like most people wouldn't have a reading nook in a storage unit.
Well, we were just talking about that because when you walk into the hallway, you have to press a button to turn the light on in your unit. But
You know what?
but the timer on that light is 30 minutes. So every now and then, after 25 minutes, it blinks to tell you that you have 5 minutes. You got to go out to the hallway, turn it back on again, turn it off, turn it back on again. So you have another 30. The downstairs room had was misprogrammed, so that it had 3 hours instead of 30 minutes. And I had told the guys, the warehouse people, you should have all of them to be 3 hours because it's very inconvenient to go out there every 30 minutes. And that's when they told me that the downstairs one was incorrect. And they actually said to me, you're the only person who stays here for more than 30 minutes at a time. Best customer.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, you remember when we first moved everything into that place 4.5 years ago, I was there almost from opening to closing every day trying to organize that stuff. So, it was a
Home away from home.
Yeah, not a getaway, but I used to bring sandwiches. I used to sit there, have snacks. I'd be on Facebook or whatever, sitting there.
So I think that kind of gets at it. I think Steve utilizes it in a way that I think room probably is appropriate. I think most people probably don't spend as much time or eat or really relax in a warehouse space. But hey, man, they're your units. Use them, and you might as well get your money's worth, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
So as we said, you move the contents of the downstairs unit to another slightly smaller unit.
No.
Same dimensions.
Same dimensions. It's just because of the front, I guess, the entryway door, which I don't know how to describe it. It was one of those doors that
There's a gate that goes up and down, right?
And also because of the configuration, it looks smaller. Looks like it was a small room, but it's actually the same size. And I actually got more stuff into there than I had previously.
And we just came from Westy's and saw the new room/unit, and I super complimentary. Steve's logistical ability and how he organized this thing was just a tremendously efficient use of space. You laid that out well, even with your work table, and you maximized floor to ceiling usage.
Yeah, I mean, I was there a couple weeks ago with Steve, and I mean, all chop busting aside, like it's very impressive. It's extremely well organized. Everything is, you have your Marvel statues, you have them alphabetized by character to the extent possible. Your DC stuff. I mean, like everything is laid out very
Logistically, it's
very well.
fantastic, and you're able to walk the whole thing and unencumbered. It's not. It's not a hardship.
Now, the reason you moved from downstairs to this upstairs unit was because they were going to raise the rent on the downstairs one?
Rent was going to go up by about $100 a month.
Why was it more expensive downstairs? Was it proximity to the dock?
Yeah, there's a back room,
Loading dock?
Loading dock.
Oh, okay.
So
okay.
because of that and because of the type of open door, it wasn't a door.
The
it was,
gate.
It's a gate, rising gate.
Okay.
So
Now, my thing is, I feel like, again, going back to this whole Westy's best customer thing. Well, first of all, I have to assume at this location, at least, you must be their best customer.
that's what they tell me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've had two, rather, what are the dimensions of these again, roughly?
Well, it's 300 square feet. The dimensions, I don't know what. You have a better eye than I do.
I just want people to be clear. We're not talking about like a locker here or a small closet. Like they are vast.
Rooms.
They are vast. I mean,
Yeah.
people, when you see the documentary, they're in the new documentary.
And what would you say, if I may?
20 by 15 or something like that.
I would say 12 by 20 or something like that. The
300
hallway,
square feet.
The hallway, I think, is 12. My guess would be like 12 feet wide and then 20 feet deep.
Something like that. But
That's
whatever.
just a guess. I didn't.
Yeah,
it's-
but I think it's got to be. I'd say 15 by 20. That way you have your 300. No, that's not. No, yeah, that way
Yes,
you have your 300
yes.
square feet,
yes.
right? And then the comic book room is probably in that same neighborhood, actually.
So you have two very large spaces that you've had for 5 years now. So I have to imagine, and you pay on time. I mean, I have to imagine you are their best customer. Such that I feel like if you had said to them, like, hey, can you keep my rent at its current level? I feel like they would have been receptive. No?
Well, no, I think certain things are going to be a corporate decision. They wouldn't have any say in that. But that's why they were able to give me the alternative of we can move you to this other room, which is the same square feet, but it's not going to have the same rental rate since it's not centrally located to their back freight dock.
Actually, having just seen it less than 2 hours ago, and again, I'm super impressed with the logistics and just how organized and how detailed and how just clean and nice it was. But you're so close to the front door. That's fantastic. I mean, you're literally the first door on the right and then hallway.
Yeah. Well, I can't get lazy about it. I can't say, well, gee, if they open up the room next to that, I can take the comic book room and put it, so I'd be right next to each other. I don't have to walk, that much farther.
Steve digs a hole between units. So he doesn't have to go
Takes
outside.
down
takes down the wall, so it's like
takes
one
down
large room.
Yeah, the separating wall.
I feel like a big part of you actually welcomed I know it was a lot of work, but I feel like part of you welcomed the opportunity to move because it allowed you to, rearrange and catalog everything, right? Is that
Yeah. Oh,
fair
yeah.
to
No,
say?
because for all these years, I've only been selling the Bowen busts and the Bowen statues and some of the DC things because that's the only thing I could get access to.
Like you physically, that was all that was
Yeah.
physically accessible.
I would
Now
have-
you have access to everything
Yeah.
because of the way you laid it all out.
The reason I didn't do toys for the past couple of years is because I couldn't get to them. But now that it's all set up, it's like I can just walk in and say, gee, I need
God.
this, I need that. And I can just grab a case of Marvel Select.
It's so well labeled.
Simpsons.
It's tremendously well labeled. You got easy access to everything. You got that table for packing and preparing the shipments.
Yeah, I set up the folding
Yeah.
table there so that we have a workspace. I can actually take a case of, Batman, Automobilia, whatever it was called, spread them all out. There's Star Trek, starships, see what I have, and then reorganize it. So
As you moved from the former unit to the new unit, was there anything that you found that really surprised? Like, wow, I didn't know I had this.
lots of stuff.
What was
There were a lot of boxes that were not labeled.
top of mind? I mean, what's the first thing that comes to you? Like, wow, I didn't know I had this.
Oh, gee. It's almost every box you open up. It's like, I had no idea. I thought I had sold all of these. What are they weren't Marvel Select, but the Universal Monsters. You'd open it and say, I sold all of them.
Frankenstein or the Mummy
Yeah.
or something like that.
And I just found another Phantom of the Opera. Or I opened it up and said, I didn't even know I had this. The 300 figures. I didn't know I still had those. Wow. So, and I had totally forgotten the sealed cases. I forgot we had all those McFarlane Talisac from the, Clive Barker Nightbreed things. And then you look it up and say, wow, each of these is really, they were expensive when they came out, but now you look and say each one is expensive. So it's like, now I got 3 cases.
Yeah, I very much agree with Anthony that in some ways this must have been fun for you to go through and just in your own mind get a sense of, oh, this is the stuff I have and I know where it is.
Well, it was nice for me because, I always go to the warehouse and say, what should I sell next? But now I find these boxes of things that when the boys packed it up when we were closing the store, they just took magazine boxes and just took figures off the pegs. So there was no rhyme or reason to where they were putting in the box. They just fit and they could put the top on and get it out of the store. So now I could take, what do we have? There must be like 10 of those boxes.
Easily, yes.
So if I want to go in, I'll grab the top box and take it home and say, oh, look at this. There's one Supergirl figure. There's one Marvel Select figure. There's something. It's a mishmash. It keeps me from getting bored when I list stuff on eBay.
And that's the thing, the question that people always ask, and I think we know the answer, but just to confirm, you're still enjoying yourself doing this.
On eBay?
Yeah.
Except for the people, yeah.
Even on eBay, where you don't have to deal with them face to face.
I will tell you, the first 30 seconds at his house today.
Yeah.
I had to keep him waiting because I was writing a reply to somebody.
No, I know. I'm sure they haggle. I'm sure it's a lot of the same frustrations at the store, but now it's electronic. But I don't know what else is there where you don't have to deal with. You can sell, but not deal with people at all.
I don't
I'm
know.
only laughing because your trigger point is so low.
It'll be a fun weekend in June.
The only thing, going back a little bit, the main reason to do this show is because after having rearranged everything in the, I'll say the toy statue room, I see how much stuff we have, and it's like, well, it would be to my benefit to try to move a lot of this stuff quickly. And that's why I said, well, let's do a show. That way I can get rid of all these, like, say, huge Bowen statues, which I can still sell online, but the packing and hoping that it gets to California without getting damaged is nerve-wracking. But if I can take these things and just sell them at the show, even discounted, I can clear up the space in the warehouse, get rid of these big things, not worry about trying to find a large Amazon box on recycling day from some neighbor that I can throw it in. Yeah, I mean, every recycling day, I'm walking around the neighborhood with the dog, and I see somebody's paper recycling, and say, "Oh, this is a great box." And I'm walking down the street carrying empty boxes with the dog.
That Odo boy.
That Odo boy. What's he doing now? That's what they say. But
so it was relatively like there wasn't much time then between you deciding, or at least thinking about doing the show, and that brunch, right? Because you moved everything around the holidays.
Yeah, I mean, the first they made that new room available to me on the 31st of December. And so I took advantage of it immediately to go in there and start doing it. And as I started doing that, I got more of a sense of how much stuff there was downstairs. And so the next day when we had the brunch, it's still on my mind of the quantity of product. So
it was that quick of a turnaround between you being like, maybe I'll do a show, and mentioning it at that brunch, and then we were off and running.
Right. But you're running so fast. And it's like...
No, okay. So on that note... And I already recorded the next episode where Chris Wilcock comes on the show. He's the organizer of Undiscovered Realm Comic-Con. And I talk about this in the next episode, but I'll say it here too. It was very important to me that, first of all, this wasn't something that we really even encouraged you to do initially, as we've discussed. Like, you came up with it at the brunch. And for myself, I was like, I don't want to insert myself too much into this process because this is your thing. And, hopefully it'll go well, and I'm sure it will go well, but in case it doesn't, I don't want this to be me. So all I did initially was I texted Chris, and I gave him a heads up. I just said, Steve is thinking about doing the show. What does he need to do? He told me that he just needs to know what sort of setup you want it to have. So I relayed that to you, and I gave you Chris's email. And that was it. And then a good bit of time went by, or a few weeks at least.
Oh, I think it was about a week.
It might have been a little bit more.
10 days? Yeah.
And I actually happened to be texting with you and Chris independently, and each of you independently mentioned that no communication had happened yet. You were like, "Oh, I haven't." You were still in the midst of moving everything and cataloging and all of that, and I think that probably preoccupied you and your time, understandably.
Well, that's part of it, but part of it is like,
I mean, was it that you this wasn't something that you're like, I'm dying to do this show, so if they ran out of space, I don't care.
So it goes, yeah.
Yeah,
that's pretty much it.
But that's what I'm saying. I feel like this flies in the face of hesitation kills.
No, because I don't look at it and say, gee, if I don't do this show, I'm screwed and I've got all this stuff.
So
'Cause
hesitation kills, but if you don't care, it's all right.
Well, no, if it's like, if I know that I can still sell the stuff on my own,
Right.
and I'm just not doing it at the show with the extra headaches, then it works out fine.
Right.
You know, if we do it and it does well, that's great too. If we do it and it doesn't do well, I'm not my expectations are low and I won't be disappointed.
Well, that is another Odoism,
Yeah.
and a good one.
But you know, if it happens, it happens. It's not the be all end all of getting rid of the stuff in the warehouse. As far as Chris, I figured, okay, since you had already made the first contact with him about it, and he was aware of it. If the space was available, then I'd take it. And if they said, "Well, I'm sorry, we sold out," it's like, "Oh, okay."
If I hadn't reached out to him, do you think this might have just faded away?
Possibly.
Yeah.
Yeah. But then after your second contact with him, he said, "Okay, here's the space. This is what we can get. Send him a check. Blah blah blah." I said, "Okay." But again, another week or so goes by. I figures, "Okay, I'll drop a check off at his place." And then he said, "Well, he's never really there." So I was like, "Okay, then there's no point in me stopping by. I'll just mail him a check." And I said, "Okay, well, he knows it's coming." So it was.
Well, it was at that point when we got more specific about the booth setup where I stepped up a little bit because he actually was getting to the point where he was selling booths and the corner spaces in particular were going.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he said like he still hadn't heard from you about what space you were looking for, and I figured maybe you didn't have something so specific in mind. So that's when I asked him what are our options? And then he offered this double booth corner setup, which sounded amazing. And when I sent that to you, a few minutes or however long passed, and then I got the text response, and I saw Steve Odo iMessage on my phone, and I turned to Steph and I was like, he's gonna have a reason why he doesn't want to do it or he doesn't want that size space. It took a couple seconds before I even opened it because I'm like, I know he's going to be down on it. And I was, again, this man is full of surprises. In 2020, he goes, sure, why not? I was over the moon. I was like, this is amazing.
So easy to make him happy.
Steve, you are the only person in the world I know that is intensely predictable and simultaneously unpredictable.
You are also, as self-described, and we all see it as well, a contrarian. So part of me feels like maybe we would have been better off if we were like, when you said, I'm thinking of doing the show.
Oh, don't do it. Don't do it.
If you do it, get the smallest space that they have. Get the little.
Wait till the night
table.
before. If he's got a table, take it. Don't rush.
He would have been on the phone with Chris. Give me your biggest booth now.
I'll take the entire convention center.
Just change the U to an A. AR con. But no, I mean, look, I am excited. I know, Rich is excited too. Bill's flying in from New Mexico for this.
Did he confirm that he's going to be able to fly in?
I sent him a text a little while ago. I said, I said, no pressure. I said, but what do you think about me doing like a special, like super limited edition run of AR shirts at this thing? No response.
Doing the shirts is a lot of hard work.
It's a lot of work. That's why I said no pressure. I was just floating the idea. But I mean, I am excited, but part of it's personal. I think we'll have a fun time, and I think it's an opportunity to reconnect with former customers, people we haven't seen in a long time.
Yeah.
Creatively, it's given me fodder for this, and so I feel like Steve gave me an amazing gift with this. I feel like maybe it wasn't even conscious, but I feel like we did that last episode, and he was like, "I'm really sad. Like Anthony's not going to be doing the podcast because he doesn't have anything to talk about. So let me give him something to talk about."
Oh, I don't think that.
I think so. I think in the back of your mind, maybe.
If it makes you happy, think like that.
Only Steve. Oh, no, I'm not generous. No.
Steve,
You can delude yourself. You can delude yourself if you want, but go ahead.
But so, personally, I think it'll be fun. Creatively, it's given us stuff to talk about. But then also, again, from a financial business perspective, I think, and going back to what Rich was getting at before, the proximity. I mean, literally, there's no closer convention. I mean, the distance between the warehouse and the Westchester County Center is minutes, couple minutes.
Right.
So the opportunity to have backup lots of the various merchandise that will be there so that we can run and replenish whenever needed. Yeah. Well, what an advantage. And you would only have it at this show.
Yeah. No, I think I'm looking at it more from a logistics point of view. It's like, what do we take to sell and who can we get to help us? Because remember, I don't have vehicles anymore. I don't have the Pathfinder.
Yeah, the automobile.
You could really pack a lot of stuff into there.
But
we've got the RAV4.
Doesn't Westy's...
they have a truck, but I've got to return it before end of day.
Oh, okay. This actually brings up something I wanted to talk about because, again, this whole idea of Westy's best customer. Now, Steve would never take advantage. I know this. You're very gracious, generous. You would never take advantage. But I can't help but think, Rich, like what could he get away with as their best customer? Because I feel like if he came out one day after being back there for 2 hours
and said, "Oh boy, I'm hungry. I'd love a roast beef sandwich now." I think one of those guys in the jackets would run out that door, go to the nearest deli.
No.
Do you want
that?
I am convinced. I know, Steve, you did not watch The Office, right?
No, I didn't watch it.
All right.
You didn't watch West Wing, so I'm not watching The Office.
Okay, that's fair, I guess. But there's this, for anyone not familiar, including, Michael Scott is the manager of this branch of a paper company, and he's a very unorthodox manager. But his branch's numbers are always very high. Like, the branch performs well. And so at one point, the CFO brings Michael into corporate because, the company is hurting, but this one branch is thriving. And he brings Michael in and he's trying to figure out, what are you doing? And of course, Michael can't articulate anything. But I feel like it's something similar happens at Westy's, where corporate is looking at the numbers
and going, "Geez, that place in White Plains is making more profit."
They bring the manager and they're like, "What are you doing there?"
Yeah.
I feel like
he's got the lowest turnover rate, the greatest consistency, the most loyal customers. They're going to send trainees.
I only have two units. I only have two of them. There are hundreds in that building, but they do have a good occupancy rate. I think it's probably about 98%.
But
pretty
very
impressive.
few. How many people lease units for 4.5 years?
of that size.
It's a big world. I'm sure there are other people who have bigger rooms downstairs.
Even today, when we parked and walked in, I saw that guy smile and wave at you.
What's so funny though?
They know me.
Yeah. This is great because on the one hand, it's like again, Steve's fighting us at every turn here, but he wouldn't be Steve if we were like, "You're Westy's best customer."
Yeah.
He's like, "Yep."
Steve is a contrarian.
Yeah.
Steve, yeah.
But I think if you're not their best customer, boy, are you up there. And I feel like, at a minimum, if you were like, "Hey, I'm kind of hungry," I feel like they would accommodate you. I don't know where the line is between that and "I've got a dead hooker back here. Can you help me?" They probably say no to that. But then again, I don't know.
Yeah.
This is like a TV show to you. This is like The Office to you.
Yeah. In case you haven't noticed, this is a show that we're doing. It's always funny to me when we do these episodes
How he processes.
because I feel like Steve comes in, he's like, a lot of times he doesn't want to give me anything, and I'm thinking to myself he knows this is a show we're putting out there, right? We're recording this for people to be entertained by.
I guess I look at the podcast as more informational.
I don't.
as opposed to like an interview with what do you call it? Let's say you're a radio show host and you had a singer coming in.
Right.
Right. And it's more informational. But I'll be doing shows at such and such place, and here's my new song, and blah, blah, blah. And I think it's more informational as opposed to the entertainment type of interview where it's what's I always talk about what's that guy's name? Graham Norton, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, to sit down, everybody just tells stories, funny stories of, when I was just starting out and I got arrested for blah, blah, blah. Then those are the funny stories. And I don't consider these podcasts to be funny story time.
Although it's funny because when this is going back a couple of years, but our good friend Lord Retail, Jermaine, the manager of Acme Comics, when I was down there in advance of the Kickstarter campaign, we for My Comic Shop Country, we filmed a quick promo video encouraging people to support the campaign. And he was wonderful in the video, but it was so funny because he kept saying basically if you like the podcast, you should help support this documentary. And he was like, the podcast is great. He's like, as a retailer, the data. He kept saying data. And I'm thinking to myself, this makes it sound so dry and scientific. But, everybody gets something different out of the show. From my perspective, yes, I certainly want to, pull out as much, both entertaining and informative, content as I can.
Yeah.
Maybe, if I may, for the balance of this discussion, this podcast, maybe you should not look at it as a PBS clinical dry interview as much as, hey, here's what excites me about what's going on this June at this show.
Nothing excites him about it. Does anything excite you about it?
I like the idea that we might be able to get rid of a lot of supplies.
Okay.
Remember, I still have, 15 cases of backing boards?
Yes.
And probably that many cases of comic book bags, and we used to joke that it was our best seller at the store.
Right. Yes, people would buy the pre-made bags and boards
Right.
for 25 cents each.
So again, in preparation for this show, even though it's months away, thank God we got the extra month. I can make thousands of pre-made bags and boards, and just bring like long boxes of that stuff for people who are at the other booths buying loose comic books, and say, well, okay, for a quarter I can get 2 of these things, and bag and board. That might be our best seller at this show. It would be sad, but could be the best seller.
I think you might have floated this idea to someone else at this table, and
Bill.
and Bill, and I think they thought you were serious in the moment or not. They thought you were. Were you? How serious were you?
I still am.
That's all you would bring.
No.
That's how
The Return of Alternate Realities, home of the bag and board. No, seriously, it's like instead of it becomes for me the problem about getting ready for the show is, what do you take?
Right.
I don't think taking boxes of miscellaneous books on the off chance that somebody's after this particular issue of Captain America or that particular issue of Action Comics. What are the chances? There are millions of titles. So if I bring in 4 boxes, it'll be comics from A to D. And people say, do you have any Justice League? And I say, well, yes, but not here.
When Steve and I had lunch, we talked a little bit about what he might bring. And I think the full subject of this, will be its own episode. But
Which means you're coming back.
It's yeah. I'll send you multiple reminders. Never responds to them, mind you. I keep texting this guy. I'm like, I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you at 2:30. No response.
He showed me. Anthony sends a text, 2:30.
It's like a thumbs up, man.
No, we were joking about it at the warehouse. When you sent the text that said, see you at 2:30,
What did he?
I was going to reply, 2:30 question mark. And Rich says, don't do that.
Thank you.
Yeah. But
anyway, Steve and I, we had lunch. We talked a little bit about what he might bring, and it seemed like almost everything you had a reason why you were not going to bring it. Like, for example, the back issues, not just Jay's, but the back issues generally, since they're alphabetized.
It's 120 long boxes worth of back issues in alphabetical order. I don't want to spend the next month taking empty
Do you have
long boxes.
anything that's random still? Anything?
No.
So what you're saying is like you obviously can't bring everything. So then it becomes a matter of either you just bring like letter J, or you have to go through and pull out
One
a
of
little bit
each.
from
Where we have
from the
multiples,
library.
especially when we have multiples. A long box might have
Right.
only 50. A long box holds 250, 300 books, and there might actually only be 50 different titles.
Right.
In that one, so I have to pull them all out.
Okay.
Make random boxes, 20 random boxes of books.
Is there any way around this that you see?
Well, possibly. The only thing you might consider is bring like a box of X-Men, a box of Superman, a box from Batman, because there's probably a lot of content that's already assembled for that character, and they're the more popular characters.
But at the same time, remember, you can't. As a customer, when I was collecting, it really bothered me to go up to a table, find some books. There's no prices on this stuff.
Well, we could put a sign up, two for $1 or something like that.
Well, if you're talking about good back issues, it's like you don't just take an X-Men book and say, okay, I'll take $2 for this book, and it's like a $10 back issue. Right? So to actually go through this stuff and grade it and price it and say, okay, here's a $15 copy, here's a $12 copy.
One thing I admire, you in the store, you had diversity of inventory and content. Are you going to, I'm assuming you're going to mix it up and bring different types of things. I'm assuming. What are your thoughts about, or is it too early? What are your thoughts about what you're going to bring to the show?
I would love to say, let's bring trade paperbacks. But remember, when we packed it up, we have 40 short boxes filled with all Marvel trade paperbacks, 40 short boxes of DC trades, and 40 short boxes of nothing but independent trades. So I just recall the last time we did the show was at that county center. It wasn't an Undiscovered Realm show. I don't remember.
Right. It was a different convention, but it was at the county center, and it was just like a year or two before you closed the store.
Yeah. And we talked about this. We set it up in such a way that we had some trades, we had some toys, we had dollar books, boxes of dollar books. We had boxes of better books at $5 a piece, $5 or $10 a piece, and we had a wall set up behind us that had lots of nice, expensive back issues.
Right.
But the problem is, we're talking about a small show in White Plains, New York. where you don't have people walking in with $2,000 or $3,000 each to buy a nice book. People go with $200, $300 in their pockets, and they want to just get the dollar books that they can go home with shopping bags full of them.
Right.
We had that really nice Hulk 181, first Wolverine. And I don't even remember what we priced it at, but it wasn't outrageous. It was probably a decent price. And we had a lot of people stand there and go, wow, that's a great looking book. I wish I could get that book. But nobody was going to ask to buy it. Nobody could afford it. We had the run of Walking Dead when Walking Dead was a big deal. A complete run, except for number 1. I think I sold that before. We had a complete run, and nobody was buying a single issue. We had a whole bunch of amazing Spider-Mans, Bronze Age, maybe a couple even Silver Age Spider-Mans. And these are the books that real collectors go after. And none of that stuff on the shelves sold.
So, if I may,
It was a lost leader. I don't know. We sold almost nothing. We had action figures the whole bit.
but
That's why I don't know what to take this new show.
okay.
Bags and boards.
Well, you go ahead, Rich.
No, I was going to say, based on, as you said, this is a very regional, a local White Plains show. My question is, knowing the market, knowing the people that go, what do you think would resonate with the consumer? I mean, like, if they're not really, really a fan of the Silver Age or a fan of the Bronze Age and they don't want to fork out big dollars, and I can ask the question, I don't know the answer. What do you think might resonate or pique the interest of the consumer?
Based on what I observed from that other show, prior to the show, remember we sold Big Joe. I can't pronounce his last name, but he bought, I don't remember, 50 long boxes worth of our back stock for about $5,000. And he got a great deal for what he got. But he took all that stuff, went to the show. He didn't even put it in any kind of order. He just had piles of boxes, not even in the long boxes, just on the table, vertical piles of comic books at $1 a piece. And he had crowds of people lined up 2 or 3 lines to go through that, and they're pulling up books and they're throwing their $20 bills at the guy all day long. He probably did better than any dealer did at that show because it was just, to me, junk.
It was volume. I mean, it was...
Yeah, and I guess, and I hate to say it, but I don't, again, for the reputation of the store, you don't want people to say, "Wow, Alternate Realities is just selling old junk." But I can certainly put up. Well, I'm going to say 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. I'll say I have 20 diamond boxes filled with damaged comic books. Damaged in terms of maybe a small dent in the corner or a little fold on one edge or broken spines. But they're all relatively new. I mean, books from, say, 2000 to 2015. And I can put those things out for 25 cents a piece, and that might actually do better because people can buy a ton of books. I can get rid of, again, what's the diamond box hold? 150 books?
Yeah.
So let's say conservatively, we're talking about 2,000 books.
I mean, as far as, people walking away and being like, oh, alternate realities brought junk. But I mean, if this is the kind of stuff that people are looking for, I feel like they would be happy that you had it and they'd be happy to buy. I mean, I don't know that necessarily should hold you back. I mean, it's interesting because, you're talking about, why you don't want to bring some of the less expensive back issue fodder, but also why you don't want to bring the high end stuff. I mean,
that's why, this is almost,
but we need comics.
I think the show is also almost just a showcase for us, for you to put an advertisement out for your podcasts and for your DVDs and your, whatever movies that you're going to sell on Amazon. It's a place for me to put on advertising saying, listen, I have everything that prior to 2015. So if you want something, here's my email. Write to me. Say, do you have Avengers number blah, blah, blah? And because it's organized after all these years, it was certainly not organized at the store, but it's such a way that I can say, yes, I do, or no, I don't, and just do the sale privately that way and say, okay, listen, for $10, here, I'll meet you at the warehouse and you can grab this stuff. And the same thing with the big statues. We sold a lot of stuff in the past 5 years online. But if somebody says, do you have a Bowen Mandarin mini bust? I said, by chance.
Not now.
We have one left. I just sold one the other day. So we just at the warehouse and I pulled the last one off the shelf. But it's like I can say, yes, I have it. This is the price. My price is always lower than everybody else on eBay anyway. Right. So I can even actually make it probably even lower than that if I'm going to do a hand a face-to-face sale and avoid the eBay fees and avoid the postage stuff. Yeah.
Well, and so on this note, I mean, let me just say, like, I want you to get out of this show what you want to get out of it. So if you're coming at this from the perspective of like, hey, there are some things that are challenging to sell and ship via eBay, like these big statues and these heavy hardcovers, and I have an opportunity to move them here at the show, and it's a marketing opportunity. I mean, I appreciate that you're looking at it as one for me. Thank you. And, for yourself and to promote the Super Odo eBay handle, if that's what you're looking to get out of the show, like, that's fine. I mean, I ultimately, as far as I'm here in a support capacity, like whatever will get you what you want out of the show, I guess. But if we are having the conversation of like what could potentially work generally, I mean, I guess a couple of things. One, I know that last show at the county center, it wasn't the hottest, but this is a different show. It's been a few years. It's still a new show. It's still growing. And this year there will be more comics vendors there. I don't know if that will mean more comics fans are coming there looking to buy. I don't know. But the thing I keep coming back to, and we've talked about it before, but the proximity. I think the fact that you're so close, it's like you have the opportunity, if you want, where you can bring a mix of things. Bring some trades, bring some dollar books, bring some expensive books, bring bags and boards. If they don't sell, we bring them back. And if they do sell, we have backup lots ready to go. I mean, again, with any other show, you can't do that. You really have to commit to something. With this, you can bring a little bit of everything and test it out. Because I think that's the thing. This show is a little more untested. We don't really know what people are going to be looking for.
Yeah, I suppose it'll be a little variety of everything. So there will be some trades. But I guess I have to look at the titles and say, well, there's no point in bringing this, what's an obscure...
Aztec, the Ultimate Man.
Okay. Yeah.
But to Rich's point, like, right, and we always talked about that at the store. What were the big ones, right? Superman, Batman, Spider-Man, X-Men. If you just brought a mix of that stuff, you're likely to hit somebody who's like, oh, I'm looking for this.
But again, as alternate realities, remember, one of our specialties was we had that oddball stuff too, right? What's that little dead girl? What was the name of that? Lenore.
Oh, yeah.
Little dead girl. We sold a lot of that. It's like, how many people are looking for that? But because nobody else has it, carries in their store. That's why, you went to alternate realities and say, well, here's this obscure, what's that guy's name? I can't even remember.
That's
It's been so many. But, it's like those oddball things. Even Hellboy. It's not that it's a small title, but it doesn't have the fan following of The Amazing Spider-Man. But if we brought one of each of the Hellboy trades, would that sell? I don't know.
Well, I think, candidly, I think you really need to think about the consumer at this show, what they're interested in, what their buying patterns are, what they want to obtain. Candidly, some of the stuff you might bring might never resonate with the people that attend this show, right? So, candidly, I would say there might be certain things like a very rare omnibus, a big, heavy...
Yeah, but you see, that kind of stuff I have no trouble selling online.
But you said that you don't want to ship the heavy hardcovers. That you would prefer.
The books are easy because you can still do media mail.
Okay.
It's the big statues. I mean, remember that Jabba the Hutt?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I can bring the Jabba the Hutt, that's great. That'll fill up the car, so we'll have to make several trips. But again, it's $1,000 Jabba the Hutt. Even if I put it at $500, I doubt anybody's going to walk in and say, here's $500, I want this Jabba the Hutt.
I think that's the sort of analysis you need to go through.
Yeah,
because
but in knowing the quantity of stuff we have in the warehouse, it's like, shall we take we have 5 sections of steel shelving that have nothing but Bowen mini bus. We could bring all that stuff. We can put them all out at, say, $50 each, even if they're $75, some of them are $35, but we can do that and blow it out and clear up 5 shelves of the steel. But I don't want to be just nothing but bus.
Agreed.
Okay.
Agreed. No, very
so
much.
that's why
agreed.
I think yes, we have to bring a combination. And I still think the bags and boards are going to be very very profitable. I think this will be a surprise for you.
You're gonna sell them made up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah. It only takes me 6 minutes to do 100. The old days. Maybe I slowed down. It'll
Probably
take me
7 or 8 minutes.
Yeah. But if I bring 3 long boxes of nothing but pre-made bags and boards at 25 cents a piece, or buy.
I really think you're overestimating. I wouldn't necessarily bring 3 long boxes. Maybe 1.
Really? You see, I think, because people are going to say, okay, I need, even at the store, we always had a long box filled with them to restock what was on the front. And we always What did that front hold?
Yeah, but you had people coming in. I mean,
And
all
they're
day buying comics.
they're buying comic books, and they're saying, okay, and they take 3 or 4, and some guys will take 20 or something like that. So if you're at a comic convention, every other dealer is selling just loose comic books here and there, and then they're walking by and say, okay, I just need 3 boards. And I really do believe it's going to, okay, I'll compromise. I'll bring 2 long boxes. But I
Bring
really
one long
believe-
box and one short box.
That's not a compromise.
You're only meeting him half dead middle. You've got to use Steve compromise. Advantage Steve.
But
The iron fist of doom.
so yes, so the bags and boards are going to be some of the big statues. Namor is going to make an appearance.
We have our own swim team.
The men's polo team.
Now, to his credit, you know what amazed me? One of the things I noticed today, of the 12 Namors, there's only 5 left.
Wow.
Yeah. So they do sell.
Yeah, you've been saying you have hundreds of items listed on eBay. And yeah, I think this, again, one of the other reasons why I'm so glad that you're doing this and where I see the opportunity, and I might be being a cockeyed optimist here, and maybe this won't happen, but I mean, if we can get the word out, and hopefully this podcast goes a long way towards that, hopefully you start posting about it on social media, let people know. I mean, you have all these former customers. A lot of them ended up at Spider's Web, and the Spider's Web will be at the show as well. So that might actually pull some people. But I mean, it's an opportunity, yes, on the personal side to see them, but hopefully to make some sales and to pull our former customers back.
No, listen. One of the few things we've talked about this before. One of the few things I miss about the store is the customers. And when I do visit Paul at Spider's Web, or when I do visit Mark over at Oh Yeah, I inevitably run into old customers. And so, we stand around and chat, and it's really nice. One of the problems that we had at that last show that we did was that they were all our our current customers at the time.
Right.
So everybody was just coming in to say hi. And that's what we spent the whole time doing.
If I may, because they were current customers, they already had the content.
Right. Right.
So-
So it'd be nice as a reunion in that sense.
No, but I think what Rich is saying is like, these are people now who haven't bought from you in
Exactly.
5 years.
Exactly.
But again, I'm a contrarian, believe it or not. There's so much new product out there that they're currently buying that we don't carry. So are they going to come in and say, oh, here's that Dark Side action figure from New Gods that I didn't buy when you had it at the store, so let me buy it from you now?
I won't know. I mean, again, this is an experiment of sorts.
Yeah.
And again, I can't sit here, and I'm not sitting here and saying like, okay, if you bring this, they're going to fly. I don't know.
Yeah,
and
so it will be a mishmash of stuff. I'll drop the bags and boards. But
I think you
just
should bring
haven't
some.
You haven't determined the overall composition.
yeah, I mean, I do think it's going to take preparation. And again, where I thought we're in February, I only had March and April to get this thing ready. Now I have May. It's going to be my sitting down with empty short boxes, going to the warehouse and saying, well, let me pull these G.I. Joe trades and Transformers trades and stuff that people seem to still care about because they don't want this miscellaneous Avengers trade out of the 25,000 Avengers trades that have come out in the past 10 years. So I'm not going to bring those. Maybe I'll bring some if it's multiples.
Right.
But, then it means taking 90% of it back to the warehouse after the show's over and then putting it back into this bookcase space that they're in now. But it's a lot of prep to do this show.
Yeah.
And again, it's not going to be all trade paperbacks and hardcovers.
You're going to diversify.
Yeah. I mean, maybe I should take those really big, like the Omnibus and the Absolutes, those big hardcovers that are $100, $150 each, and making $50 or something, and do it that way. So
Yeah.
that the opportunity to buy some really, I won't say rare, but expensive items at a deep
Is
discount.
so appealing.
This is your opportunity to buy it.
I mean, that's a 1-2 punch. If you have something that people really can't get their hands on anymore, and you're discounting it, I mean, I think that's great. I mean, I feel like overall we're on the same page. It's hard. Sometimes it's hard to tell with you. I don't know, but
One thing I've learned, Steve, you do not like to be cornered.
Don't tell me what I can't do.
Yeah.
I'm doing it.
well, and again, going back to the show itself, like I said, this is still a relatively young show, and in past editions haven't had as strong of a comics presence. But again, hopefully that's shifting a little bit this year, and there will be more comics vendors. So, again, we won't know until we're in there, but I think and using one of your own Odoisms, backup for the backup of the backup. It's like if we cover enough bases and have those backups ready to go, it's like once we get a better sense of like, okay, what people are looking for. But I think, I mean, you've already said it. I mean, people go to conventions, and you know this as a fan, a collector, and whether it's working a show or just attending, people do go looking for deals. They love to rummage through back issues. Look at Rich Roney. Rich Roney flew to San Diego Comic-Con to rummage through back issues through dollar bins.
Thanks for bringing that up.
These are the most expensive dollar books I've ever bought.
I'm on Steve's side now.
I had that coming. It's all right.
Don't listen to him.
Oh, yeah, I know the hotel room you shared the hotel room, and the airfare was discounted, right? So this dollar book only cost you $75.
Yeah. Now he understands unit cost accounting.
That was why I brought that up.
Yeah. Let's get into the economics of the rooms.
The rooms. See? The rooms.
Oh, I did that just to appeal to you.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
But so I think if you have that mix.
Rooms are less expensive than units.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, on the plus side, I mean, I think it's an advantage that, like Spider's Web and Oh Yeah and New York Hardcore, like these other stores that are going to be there probably will have stuff from the past 5 years that you don't have. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it'd be an advantage if you're all selling the same stuff.
Right.
See, I don't look at the other guys as competition at all, because we're going to have totally different items.
Yeah.
I don't carry pops, so I'm not even, everybody's going to be carrying pops, and it's like I won't have a single one. I don't mind. Again, I look at the show and say, I don't mind if we really don't make money at it. I'd like to at least cover the cost, but if we don't, it's like, so it goes. I do look at it more as an opportunity to maybe move some of this stuff that's in the warehouse that's too big to sell. Opportunity for you to sell your things, for me to put out the notice that I'm still alive. Say hello to some old faces, because I do miss some of these people. These are, I can't say they're all family, but I still think about these guys. And I've, for a lot of these guys, I've watched their kids grow up. These kids are in college now.
I'm not arguing with you.
So that's why the way I look at this show. It's like, gee, it's nice to reconnect with some of the people that were a big part of our lives. Making profit would be nice, but I don't see that. It's if you and Bill were to just do the show by yourself, I want you to be able to make money at it. Otherwise, it's a waste of time. For me, I guess I'll say I'm lucky, I'm knock on wood, that if I don't make any money on it, it's not going to make or break me.
Oh, could we do an experiment where we're going to have 2 booths? Can you give Bill and me one of the booths, and we bring whatever we want, and you the other booth?
We could do that.
No, I'm just teasing. No. But wouldn't that be kind of interesting?
Yes, it would. I really want to go out to dinner after that. Yeah.
Rich, are you going to be there both days, you think?
I haven't thought that far ahead.
You're going to be there either day?
Yeah. Are you coming at all?
If I can just survive day 1, I'll call an audible on day 2.
If you can survive today, so you've already had warehouse and lunch with Steve. We're recording now, and then it's your big birthday dinner after this. So that's a lot of Steve.
So in June, it might be just 1 day. No, I do want to bring in an interruption by way of a story. So about 2 weeks ago, every Sunday, I give Steve a call, 11:30ish, and we just get up to date for the week. So with respect to this show, he did float a number of ideas at me about what he planned to do. But what he wanted to do was, he goes, Rich, how everyone always says I'm crazy? He goes, why don't you voice these ideas at Anthony's podcast? I'll go, oh, that's a good idea. My first thought was, that fucker is setting me up. I'm going to voice these ideas. Are you crazy?
Well, that's true. I forgot that he told you that. And then
yeah, my immediate thought was, he is setting me up.
Yeah. And I don't know what people's view of this episode will be, or if they'll sense that the tone was antagonistic in any way. And, again, we, not to speak for Rich, but it's like, yeah, we just want this to be, effective. And like I said, whatever you want to get out of this. And if you say like, listen, I just want to bring some big statues and a few hardcovers and bags and boards and flyers, like, knock yourself out. Like, it's fine.
I mean, there was a point where did I talk to you about this? It's like, I know that people aren't going to be there to buy big books. So I just bring a Batman 1 and put it on the shelf behind me, so people just stand there and go ooh and ah.
Isn't that contradictory?
Well, I know. I mean, nobody's going to say here's $100,000.
Well, we talked about this when we had lunch. I said maybe you don't, because you were like, I could bring a Batman 1 or an Amazing Fantasy 15. Maybe you don't need to go that grand, but again, you don't know. There might be someone who's looking for the books, and if not, it is an attraction. It might pull somebody in.
Yeah, but
That's his
it's like
point.
it's just like it's like if we're just going to be there to be not a zoo. What's the word I'm looking for?
An attraction?
A sideshow attraction? Not sideshow the company, but
No. Anthony said it magnificently just about 2 minutes ago. Whatever makes you happy, we want this to let it be fulfilling for you and let it be effective. And whatever you wish to bring, if you derive joy from that, then it's a success.
yeah, it's just. I guess you know what it's the what's overwhelming is the preparation or the thinking about the preparation for this stuff.
But you know what's so weird?
Huh?
How many mornings with Brandon, when we did the church show, did we go into the store at 5 a.m. and spontaneously just grab stuff?
Grab stuff off the shelf.
Right. And then at 5:40, we're in our cars going down. You had the Volvo then, I think.
I might have
This-
used the Volvo. Yeah.
Yeah. So now
Proper planning.
Brandon's the other extreme, right?
Right.
Get here at 5. We'll figure out what we're going to do.
Yeah.
Well, there might be something to be said for that. I mean, obviously you'll prepare more than that, but to Rich's point, it's like maybe don't overthink this so much, because again, we don't know. So it's like you gather up a mix of stuff.
That's completely a foreign concept to you.
Did you see the look on my face just now?
that don't overthink this.
Well, listen, if a takeaway from this is that you're open to diverse stock at the show and taking advantage of the proximity, I think that's great. I think again, selfishly, personally, like those are the two things that I would try to encourage you to do, because I think those are hopefully will contribute to a successful weekend.
It'd be a lot of preparation, but again, it's going to take manpower too. Aside from you and
got me, buddy.
hopefully Bill.
Yep.
But it's like the poor guys in New Mexico to fly in for a weekend just to work a show and
He's
fly
that
back out.
excited.
I mean, it'd be great to have him. It's just great to have him around all the time. Rich, if you can come in, this is great.
I'll definitely be there one day.
I think we should put you up in a hotel so you can stay overnight.
I'll definitely be there one day.
Okay.
You wouldn't want to stay over?
And see, I likewise don't like to be cornered. That's why Steve and I get along.
One other thing, going back to excitement levels for this, right? Because obviously from my perspective, and yes, part of it is marketing the podcast, but personally too, I mean, I'm looking at this as like AR returns for a weekend. I mean, in your mind, are you thinking of it in that sense, or are you just like, no, like I'm Steve and I'm going to do a convention?
I guess I look at it as Super Roto, formerly of AR.
Yeah.
Not so much AR.
So you don't look at it as like
Yeah.
AR is back for one weekend only.
We'll have the sign there. Maybe someone will say, I'll give you $100 for the sign. I'll say, okay. That'll break your heart.
Yeah, you can't do that. No.
But yeah, I mean, I guess I look at it more from the logistics point of view. I say, you know what? We have all that stuff in the warehouse right now, and I'm taking advantage of all those plastic shelves, those buildable units that have stuff on them. It means before the show, I'm going to take everything off, break down those shelves, put them into the boxes that they were purchased in, and use that to set up at the show so we have something to stack up.
As a backdrop.
Yeah.
Hey, why don't you just rent like a bus, right? And at the booth, just have a sign that
Here
says
goes the
like,
warehouse
More
back
on
and
the
forth.
bus.
yeah, and then just bring everyone to the warehouse and just let them shop. There you go. I'm sure Chris would love that.
I think for what we're talking about taking over, if we pack it right in the cars and make 2 trips, we'll be fully stocked.
Yeah, so we'll come back to that. But I mean, overall, I'm thrilled that you're doing this. I hope that you get out of it what you want. I hope that over these next couple of months, it's not overly burdensome on you to prepare for this and to think about it. I hope it's hopefully a positive, welcome thing for you. As far as we keep talking about, like, we hope to see some customers. Is there anyone in particular, like one person who you're like, I really hope this person comes through? Not to say, not at the expense of anyone else, but like, and one person in particular who you're like, I really would love to see this person.
Well, I'm not going to name names, but yeah, there are a handful of people that I never got to say goodbye to.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, there a lot of times, there were times, well, the store used to have late hours, or even if they came in at 8 o'clock when we were going to close, if they came in, I'd stay there for an hour and a half and chat with them. So there were people like that it was difficult for them to come to the store, but they came. and we would sit around and yeah, there are a handful of people it'd be nice to see. I don't know that they would. I mean, again, I know what goes on in their personal lives, so I don't know that necessarily they would have the opportunity to come anymore to this, or even if they're still collecting. But if they were to stop by, I would love to see them. You know, these are people you talk to and say, you know, we should grab lunch sometime. And of course, like anything else in life, real life comes along the way, and you never do.
Yeah.
So there are a handful of people I like to see.
My list begins and ends with Jeff Wong.
He's not on my list.
Our most legendary customer. If I have one regret with this podcast is that I was never able to get him on, and we tried a couple of times, and Bill helped, and we were never able to connect with him. But it would be great if Jeff came through. Again, I doubt it, but
I guess that would be a feather in your cap if you could get him. That would certainly talk about making it into an entertaining podcast.
I think this has been entertaining in its own way.
In its own way.
Yeah.
In a dark way.
No.
Just like a horror film is entertaining.
I don't know. I don't know that I really know where the line is between us agreeing on things in this episode and being at odds. I have to listen back to it because I don't know. Sometimes I feel like we were arguing, but then I was like, I think we were saying the same thing.
Isn't it like what Brian O'Day said in your movie, right?
The best blooper in that of all my various projects. Some things never change and some things stay the same. And then he catches himself. He's like, oh, I think that's the same thing. I don't know.
All right.
But,
I mean, again, Brian O'Day is another guy. It's like it would be in the old days, he might have been there to help us with the show. But since he's going to be there as security for the show all around, it's like we can't rely on him to man the shop or whatever. So, who's left? People have gone their own ways, or they're not going to be around. I doubt you call in. I can't imagine calling Carolyn in to say, come help us for half a day. She's got her own things going on.
Bill and I will be there. We listen. Remember what we did during the closing of the store? I feel like we could accomplish anything.
Okay, all right. It would be nice if we had special shirts just for this one occasion. You're right.
Right? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
No pressure, Bill. I'll text him again.
Okay.
We're winding down, and I hesitate to bring this up because this could launch a whole conversation. But I just want to mention it because it is a little important, and if we're going to do it, you should start the process. I don't have the clip for you, but I already mentioned this to Chris in the next episode, and he really thinks you should do it. Taking credit cards at the convention. The face. Oh, if listeners could see the face. This is why I was like, I don't want to bring it up now at the end, but is this something you're like completely opposed to? Because
how's your ulcer?
Because the game has changed a little bit. Like most vendors do take credit cards. People aren't walking around with as much cash as they used to. And it is, my understanding is that it's relatively user-friendly and simple to get that Square reader that you attach to your phone and to set up an account so that you can process payment. I mean, is this something that you're even open to, or you're just like, it's cash or nothing? In which case, that's fine.
Gosh, that's a tough question.
Well, we can circle back to it in a future episode, but I wanted to at least throw it out there.
Yeah, I mean, yes, in the world of 2020, it makes a lot of sense. And
stop right there. When you edit, done.
You know what it is? It's just I can't see doing it just for one weekend, and I'm not going to do any other shows after this is over.
Are you not? Oh, that was actually going to be my last question here.
No.
No. So, okay. The last thing that I wanted to... So, let that sit in the back of your mind as far as the credit card. You don't have to decide right this second. But, like when I posted the art for this season and, the two of us at the booth, and I was very clear with Chris when I was commissioning this. I was like, listen, the store, like, please don't make it look like a store. Like, we want it to look like a booth at a convention. Because I didn't... And in all my language, I've been very clear. Like, I don't want to mislead anyone. I don't want people to think, oh, the store's coming back. It's like, we're going to be at a convention, and that's it. But if this goes really well, like, do you think you would be open to doing other conventions, or you just think it would make you more likely to come back to this show next year?
If it's successful?
Yeah.
I guess I would consider 2021 at Undiscovered.
At this show. But you don't think that you would start thinking about doing other shows?
No.
Because you don't have that proximity.
Well, it's not just proximity. I don't have the youth and the energy. Constantly reading Chris's Facebook posts. That guy works hard. I mean, we used to joke that I was the hardest working man in Westchester, even though most of you didn't think I was. But I used to really think I was for the number of hours I put in before the store opened and after
Only
the store
you
closed.
could get that out that quickly and have two contradictions. I really was, but most of you don't think I wasn't. But
Yeah. And then there for a long time, Ralph Ralph Boone was with
Of
the
course.
senior
Yep.
with the bakery. I realized he works harder than I did because he was early in the morning baking, and then he's doing all that social stuff with the city of Yonkers, and commerce, whatever. And I said, "Gee, where does he get?" And he was doing like theater and stuff on the side.
Yep.
So it's like, where does he get the energy? I mean, granted, he was younger than me, but it's still like that's draining. And then and now, I read Chris Wilcox's Facebook posts, and the poor guy is like working to the middle of the morning. He gets maybe a couple hours of sleep. He's got to pack that truck up and then drive to God knows where. And we're not talking about to Connecticut. He's driving out to Washington, D.C. or something. And he's got to unload the stuff. He gets the problems when he gets to the parking dock where they won't let him in, or there's rain pouring on him, and there's a leak in the truck, and the stuff's getting in. And I'm looking, and he's working 2 days in a row, and he's got to drive all the way back to New York, unload, get this place open the next day. And I'm thinking, he can do that because he's young, but he's doing, 3 dozen shows a year on the road? And it's like, there's no way I'm going to do one.
Not even one. Yeah. So like in these past 5 years, because again, we're coming up on the 5-year anniversary of the store closing. And again, as we said, like you've been consistent that you hadn't. So you've truly like not been tempted to do any show prior to this point.
Oh, I think about it, but at the same time, I said, I think better. I mean, I still have nightmares. I think I've told you. My nightmares as an ex-comic book store owner is that I wake up, I'm sleeping, and I realize I have to open the store. And all the stuff is piled up, and we have to break it down. We got to put it into files. People are at the door. The store is so vast that it takes 5 minutes to get to one end to put the book on the shelf to come back to get the rest. These are comic book store owner nightmares, and I still have them. It's 5 years out, but no, I had no temptation to ever open a store again. People don't seem to understand. I've been quite happy, retired and out of
You
this.
sound very happy.
People I haven't seen in a long time, when I run into them on the street or in the mall or in a movie theater or something like that, and they see it, and their reaction is, you seem a lot happier than you used to be.
Yeah. No, hey, listen, I tell people, because, whether on or off mic, when people ask, I'm like, no, like he's happy. Like he enjoys his retirement. He doesn't, he doesn't miss having the stress of the store. It's great. It's great.
Rich has the best story. When, was it you and my father were sitting outside?
And
Was it you and my father?
we heard two guys walking by, and
They're coming into the store?
they go, "Boy, I hope he's not angry today." And these are consumers.
Yeah. I think that's good, though. I think the customers should have a little, you go to all these stores, it's all about community, we're friendly, but I don't know. I always like to think you want a little bit of that fear, right, Steve?
Not fear, but hey,
Well-
it's just no, I do not miss running the store or the business.
Right.
It's a lot harder than people. That's why I feel bad for everybody who's doing it now. That's why I like to leave, if I can, whatever I can do, lend a helping hand.
And you are
I
very
know
generous.
I know
You
how
are
hard
very-
this thing is.
You're
and,
very generous to Paul and
well, it's
Mark.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful.
but
And you'll be shoulder to shoulder with them at this convention.
yeah.
Do you think they might help advertise? Like, hey, we're going to be at the show, and in addition, AR will be there.
Well, I don't want them to do that. They have to concern themselves with selling their product.
But I would think that might, that would bring even more
people to
in.
the show.
It would be a win-win, conceivably.
Here's the thing. In this area, when you talk about like the big comic shops, like, AR was, as was here for 23 years. I mean, left quite a mark.
I think
That's a
they
draw.
might appreciate it because it would be a synergy. I just think, hey, if they come to see Steve's stuff, they'll come and look at mine as well.
I suppose.
I mean, if nothing else, though, I hope you'll spread the word once tickets aren't available quite yet, but that'll be coming soon. I hope you'll spread the word. Your page, the Alternate Realities page. I mean, I think however many former AR people we can sort of wake up and say like, hey, like, and again, they might not have the interest, they might not have the availability, they might not want to buy a ticket to the show. Any number of reasons why they might not come. They might be like, oh, that guy. But, I would like to think that a lot of them would welcome the opportunity. And I think this could be a really strong year for the show and sort of a year of transition as it, has a little bit more of a comics influence. But we'll see.
Yeah.
But I'm thrilled that you're doing it. I appreciate you giving us stuff to talk about on this season of the show. Rich, I want to wish you a happy birthday. We're recording this in late February, a few days before your actual birthday, but in a couple of hours, we'll be convening with the larger AR group for your birthday dinner. And, again, we always talk about our community and the gatherings and everything, and they don't happen all that frequently anymore. There was one over the holidays that I organized, and then I missed because I was sick, but that happened, and we did our little Illuminati thing. But, these big... these big assemblings of the full group are very rare.
Yeah, and listen, I'm thrilled, but kudos to you. You helped project manage this thing. You and Mike got the word out and handled the RSVPs and made the reservations.
We did, but I want to wish you a happy birthday, and I want to convey something because this came up actually over the holidays. Steve, Bill, Roby, and I got together. People might remember Nick Robeson. He was on one of our New Year's special episodes a couple of years back. He's out in Washington. Bill is in New Mexico, but they both were in town, and Steve and I got together with them. We had lunch, and one of the things that Bill and I were talking about at one point about you, Rich, was how much we enjoy our phone conversations with you. I'm actually being sincere because I know in our last episode we joked about your excuses for getting off the phone, but like in all sincerity,
which have increased my creativity.
Yes. But just we were talking about how much we enjoy those calls and how consistent in our lives you have been over all these years. And I was really reflecting on this. It's like I've had conversations with you from my parents' house, from the Fordham campus, from the Pace Law School campus, from my apartment, from my home now with my wife, from my office at my current job. We've had all of these chats over all of these years. I always enjoy them. I always appreciate them. And I wish you a happy birthday.
Well, thank you. Thank you. And they're mutual. I likewise have weekly chats with Steve.
It's always about Hopalong Cassidy. It's always about Sherlock Holmes. It's always about, it's not even about Wyatt Earp anymore. I miss those Wyatt Earp conversations.
I think we'll wind this down, but I want to thank you both for helping me, kick off this new round of episodes, The Homecoming. So we'll be back in 2 weeks with The Homecoming Part 2 featuring Chris Wilcock. I already recorded it. It's a strong one. I think people will enjoy it. Also coming up this season, there will be a number of episodes tying into the release of My Comic Shop Country. Truly, I could not be more excited about this. That's really, other than the birth of my son on the creative level over the past few months, that's been a massive development. Where we found a distributor for the movie. It'll be available beginning April 7th. We'll be talking about it more on the show. We'll have some special episodes tying into it. But really make sure that you keep an eye out for that. If you've had any interest in watching this film, you'll have the opportunity to very soon. So thank you both for participating in this. Thank you to everyone for listening, for coming back for this new round of episodes. I'm very happy to be doing this again. Always a lot of fun. So we'll see you back here in 2 weeks. And until then, don't be a flat squirrel.